Hi, we're back for our last installment on our new strategic plan. Joining me is Susan and Matt again. And boy, we've covered a lot of ground. This has been very interesting, and the interaction with members as they've seen each episode is really interesting too. I think in this episode, we kind of thought we'd sum things up by a quick look back at our current strategic plan that we ran from 2023 to 2025. So it had a lot of priorities, but it's centered mostly on our members. And we kind of came up with a fairly simple, straightforward approach to it. It had one and only one strategic priority: our members, focused on their outcomes being based in and around enhancing professionalism, strengthening education and technology, advocating for members' interests, and reimagining how CREB engages in its community. So that plan, looking back on it now, do you think all those efforts paid off, Susanita?
Well, I'd like to start with how we decided that we would be putting members at the forefront of that plan. So after we had our amalgamation vote, we did a member survey, and we surveyed all of those who voted to find out why they voted in the manner that they did. And we took it as an opportunity to really get the full engagement of members by having open form answers to questions. And the document that arose out of that was enormous. I think it was 1,000 pages, and every director read every word on those surveys. And as a result of that, we decided to focus this current strategic plan focusing solely on the members.
Not only read it, but discussed it in group settings.
Digested it and broke it down and, decided on which themes occurred most often. And I think that really helped us going into that strategic planning session, because we did actually hear the voice of the members. It was the most engagement that we've ever had from our membership. Now, how that translated to the plan and then how CREB operationalized the plan, your team, was in various different ways. One way, of course, was the use of the CREB building. That came up as something that was very important to members. They wanted to utilize the building more. They wanted to keep the building for sure, which resulted in the restructuring and renovation of the building. So having the campus as one of the cornerstones of putting the members first has been really amazing. And it's just so heartwarming to come to this campus and see it full often, no parking often. So it's been really great. We also enhanced our education, and of course the new professionals course has been expanded and enhanced. But there's a bunch of other things that we did as well, and I don't want to take steam away from anybody else. So I'll just start with one thing and then we can maybe expand. So one of the things that we did was to create a situation where our chief economist, Anne-Marie Lurie, by the way, we are so lucky and fortunate to have Anne-Marie. She's an incredible resource for our members. But members have the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with Anne-Marie, and that's a huge benefit to our members. So that's one example.
Well, and those 1 hour chunks fill up every time.
I'm sure.
Every time.
Some amazing things. So I wasn't originally involved in the development of the last strategic plan. I came on after it had already been thought through and started to operationalize. And so, coming on board midway through that strategic plan, I've obviously got opinions and thoughts on how things could improve and how they could be different. It came in with a, pile of ideas and sat down and maybe had some questions about how we got to certain things and kind of thing. The campus is obviously a little controversial with some members, but here we are, and it's really making an impact and a difference. And, maybe I was one of the ones who was a little on the naysay side of like, why are we spending all this money? But when I come here and I see it every day and I see the members, utilizing the space and actually taking advantage of the educational opportunities that we have, that's a huge accomplishment. And the plan that we're about to enact is really an evolution of this member focus plan. And change is hard. We have nearly 9,000 members. We're never going to get everyone to agree on path forward 100%.
Yeah.
So sometimes we got to make bold choices and do things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's bold choices doesn't mean it's reckless.
No.
You know, that's the thing. And it doesn't mean you're going to have everyone say, thank you, we all agree, and standing ovation. Also never happened. So, I remember saying not long after we were starting the debate about the campus and the cost and everything, has anybody ever been in that meeting or opened that envelope with quotation on renovations and said the words, "Oh, is that all it's going to cost?" Like words we never hear. So there's some reality around that, but it doesn't mean it's okay to set ridiculously high budget or to exceed it and have a lot of problems. But I like the way you brought up the fact that you weren't here when the last plan was adopted, because that's the thing about leadership and the extraordinary challenges that being on our board of directors and any board of directors poses, because there's certain things that are underway and you may or may not support them 100% coming in. You may have some thoughts or questions, and it doesn't mean that the plan is carved in concrete and we're all stuck with it. There's elements of all of this that can be modified and changed as we go, and that's why the constant check-ins are so important. But it was good that you mentioned at the start the enormous amount of member feedback we had coming out of the merger process. And nothing more dramatic could be posed to a membership than voting on whether or not to keep the organization. I mean, that's a devastatingly important discussion. And looking back on it, there was a lot of emotions and a lot of challenges and some hard feelings and some things that I think we're still kind of working through. But I was really proud of the fact that our members were asked a really hard question and they very thoughtfully gave us a clear answer. And with that evolved the updated strategic plan that moved us in a certain number of directions. And so we talked about the campus, and the campus really represented our focus on the member experience. So having things like chat with the chief economist. I mean, yeah, we could have done that in the old building. There's ways we could have done it or whatever. But this just seemed like a different opportunity where people would come in and go, "Oh, so you can book this time? I didn't realize." Because we can't rely on CREB Talk being the one thing everybody reads, or message of the day, or all these other tools that we use. It's easy in a busy realtor's life to miss these kinds of opportunities. But you walk by and you realize, is that our chief economist? I've seen her on TV. I didn't know she was right here. And I can book an hour? Yes, of course. Even this space. You know, the fact that we launched the CREB Cast and found some different ways to, first of all, leverage some of our strengths. Somebody like Sam, who does a brilliant job in hosting those, but also this space is available for members to use. So it is booked a lot. We have a lot of members taking advantage of this and coming in here and preparing their materials for their use, how they see fit. If we can do that for them and make it possible, this digital studio is just another big example of how reimagining the space caused us to think of this, and being courageous in taking the investment of time and resources and the fact that we've got 2 trained staff that help make the mechanics of this process so enjoyable for members that it's not daunting, and people that wouldn't have thought of doing a podcast are doing podcasts now. So
That's really cool.
It is really
One of the things that I really appreciate is just how we reimagine the space, right? Like the space used to be very chopped up, very cut off, and there wasn't an opportunity to really utilize it other than if you were in the classrooms or that kind of thing. Now we have all of this shared space on the main floor for members to come in and use. We have private offices. And one of the things that we didn't really do, but bred out of this concept is, we talked about in earlier segments, these collaboration groups. And we've got brokerages that are holding their management meetings here and utilizing the space, like using this as a home away from home. It's fantastic. And it wasn't even what we set out to do, but just these great things came out of making this available.
exactly.
And I think, too, maybe important to say from a governance perspective, Alan alluded to the fact that you don't make these decisions in spending money frivolously. And again, starts with the member survey, then goes to the Audit Finance Standing Committee to make sure that we're being frugal about our expenditures. Then it comes to the board. So because we had to upgrade the mechanics of the building anyway, it was the opportune time to reimagine the space. And as you've said, Matt, it's being so well utilized. It's just really heartwarming to see.
Well, and mentioned to a few folks, and it's not hard for anybody to sort of look back at our history. Place has always been very important to CREB members, going long before all of us. And I think that's a statement maybe about our culture and our way of doing things, and the expectation for services to be provided that members can have access to. We get it. Not everybody's going to come in here very often, but those that do, I think are learning things and seeing things and developing higher levels of professionalism, maybe just by seeing some of you coming and going and doing things and being so approachable and so willing to talk about things. And there's no yelling. There's no crazy stuff going on. It's a very professional environment. There's some fun here. There's some teasing. I had a broker meeting early in the morning, and as I came through heading to my office, I walked by a member that I see here regularly, and he said, "You're late." And I said, "Yes, I am, but I'm here." And then the next day he came in a little later, and I said, "You're late." And he said, "I am too." That's fun. And, one of the things too that we introduced in terms of getting to hear the member's voice more often is the use of the little pods that we've got at the door, asking people how their experience was today. Give us one in the frowny face or the happy face. And then we chase them out if it's a frowny face and we want to find out more, and we fire a survey at them. We don't do that, but we want to hear more. And by the way, we've had all candidates forums. We had the candidates for mayor in the previous election. We're having them coming in again. In the last podcast, we talked about the Professionalism Summit coming up on December 8th. Again, utilizing our building. It means that we can only probably have, I think our capacity is 140. That's just reality. When we were talking about the campus renovation, people were saying, well, we can't all possibly use it at once. Well, the only facility in Calgary that would have the capability for this amount of parking would be the airport, and to have everybody inside the building, and probably not in one space. So, there's certain realities of how these things have to exist, and how we have to just make it available to others. And I want to touch on a couple other things that we did in the last year too. And one of them was around higher standards and professional competence. And that was the launch of Relist Check, which was an initiative that we suggested by members and by the way, ironically, of our member practice team. As they were working on different things, some of them would say, why don't we have a tool that would allow members to sort of scrub their listing and see if it's going to pose any problems before they actually post it in the MLS. So we talked to Pillar 9, and I said, sure, you could do that. The boards can set up something ahead of Pillar 9. And it works out really well because it gives the members an opportunity to make sure there's going to be no big rule surprises. And if there is, they've got ability to pause so that we're not playing gotcha. That's not the goal here. Our goal is to help sort of coach and help our members see, the reasons why it matters to have good data. And I'm not going to spiral off into a big conversation about data integrity, but it's always near and dear because the MLS system is the secret sauce, I think, for this whole enterprise. And I'm not talking about CREB. I mean realtor. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you've got a database that is member created and member maintained, and it has to be as accurate as possible. And we hear that from members all the time. If somebody's got it wrong, get them to get it right and do it quick. Another thing that we did was the launch of the member practice SMS helpline, so that now members can text and ask questions of member practice. And it's just another access point that is maybe making use of tools that people use day to day anyway.
And we've talked about this also at the board level is, we want to meet members where they're at. We'd like to try and communicate with them where they communicate. And this is just one example.
Yeah. And another big win coming out of the last strat plan was relaunching the professionals orientation. So, that's always been a big part of what CREB does. But what we heard as far as feedback was we wanted more in-person interaction. We wanted more practice-ready agents. So the training team has really done a fantastic job of getting everything ready to do this relaunch of the orientation.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for what that means for new agents coming into the industry.
Very much so.
One thing I thought that was brilliant, the team came up with the idea of the International Block Party. And part of the result of that was we were thinking of putting a map up to sort of illustrate vast global coverage CREB members bring to the table. And the better idea was, well, why don't we have an international block party and have people talk about their culture and how it shapes how they look at things and how they view professionalism from the lens of their culture. But it's not just about their culture. It's about people learning about each other's culture. So we had our first international block party. It was incredible. Saw a lot of new faces here. A lot of people very proudly explained and stood at their table and talked about what values and so on are part of their culture. And that kind of leads us to the values of the organization, which is maybe the jumping off point in this whole conversation, because looking back at the old plan is something we did. Well, we do it throughout. That's the check-ins that we talk about and the constant monitoring and measuring. But this little review kind of sets the stage for where we're going. And that, as we do with every strategic plan, we focus on and I guess it always rolls off the tongue that we look at our mission, vision, and values. But really what we've done is said, okay, well, let's focus a little bit more at looking at it this way, where our mission defines who we are and our values talk about how we do. And then our vision takes us into what it is we're about to achieve. So these are, I think, appearing on the screen as we're talking, so I won't read them out necessarily, but let's maybe talk about our mission statement. First of all, maybe I will read it real quick, but we provide CREB members with the services they need to deliver an exceptional real estate experience. And Susanita, as per usual in a strat planning session, we wordsmith things to death, and then we realize, are we missing the point? Or are we hitting it? And we never presume our mission lives on. There's always that check-in to make sure, but we've created a new mission statement for us. What do you think of it?
Well, I obviously love it. And I think that sometimes these processes, when you're in strategic planning, if anyone's been through that before, it can become an exercise in just creating something, so that you've got something to put on the plan. And the process that we went about it with this last strategic planning partner was absolutely robust. And we really were very thoughtful about all of the concepts behind whatever it is that we were trying to convey, but also the words themselves. And it's critical to our realtors that we put this kind of thought behind it.
We did go fairly deep on the mission, vision, and values, but I just wanted to just sort of touch on them as we sort of leave the members to sort of ponder where we're going and how we're doing it together and so on. And I think our values are a key element to this too, just to underscore those, because we did spend a lot of time talking about that, not just last episode, but during the process. And we quickly realized that we can boil our values down and how we conduct our business and our affairs down into our accountability and respect that we have for each other. And I think that's borne out in this new plan.
It was a really interesting exercise because we had quite a few of those buzzwords in the last plan, right? And we boiled them down to the two. But we didn't abandon what was in the last plan. It's a sub-layer. It was interesting when we were having the conversation and we had staff in the room with us because the board was ready to just knock it down to those two. And staff came back and said, well, hold on a sec. Those other ones, second layer, that really matters to us. And we really resonate with that.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for us to take a step back as a board and realize we're the board of directors. These mean something to us as members, but the staff need to be reached in this process too, and need to resonate with what we're doing. So that was where this was one of the first times where we had a large staff complement with the board of directors for the whole session, the whole strategic planning session, to really get two-way dialogue so that as a board of directors, we can see, the impacts of how, we're creating these big ideas, but then it's up to you guys to operationalize.
Well,
And what I love about what you said there too is that when we were alerted to the fact that this is something that was important to staff, it wasn't just that it was important and that they had these concepts. They actually used the words, so when they're talking about what their teams are doing, these visions statements are at the forefront of what they do.
they do. They are, and they're our guiding principles, basically. And I'll just recap: service, excellence, professionalism, community, listening, and advocate. Accountability and respect. Those are our values. And I think it behooves us to talk a little bit about our vision, just to recap that a little bit before we sign off, because our vision, I'll read it out: Realtor's first choice for a trusted industry-leading partner. A lot of really important words there. Sum it up for us.
I believe that CREB Realtors set a standard of professionalism that the industry can emulate. And we believe that the tools, services, education that we offer our members is second to none and will elevate our realtor community. So as a working realtor every day, these words matter to me.
Yes, powerful words. And it does illustrate a vision, Matt, thinking down the road. You're the chair-elect, and you'll be leading the organization through, the main part of the strategic plan. How's it feel for you to have that vision out in front of you?
It's exciting. We talked about the plan. We looked at a lot of different things, looked at different potential paths, and I'm very happy with where we landed. We want to be the industry leader by doing the right thing, setting the right. We might not be, shaking up the apple cart, turning it upside down, but we're going to be out there being that shining example of an organization and setting our members up in a way that they are trusted professionals to the consumer. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? There's lots of opportunities for us to do great things, but some of it's about just doing basics well.
Yeah.
Creating those opportunities and setting foundational. Just execute. I'm very excited to see the plan through the next couple of years after Susan, and work with the board of directors and work with whatever comes at us.
Well said, both of you. Great place to stop off. And I think we'll give the members the last word and then invite our membership to reach out and give the directors feedback individually as a group, participate in discussions and meetings and all the other opportunities that avail themselves. And
join a committee.
Yes. Join us
Volunteer.
and
Volunteer.
stay busy out there.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.